Hello, folks. Welcome to the second episode of Sales Enablement Short Talks. I am Athar with my co host Prasoon. Here, we would discuss everything related with sales enablement, covering interesting methods, micro case studies, tools, and technological advancements. Today, we are covering summary of Gartner report on sales enablement.
All right, so in this episode, I'm going to pick Gartner's report on sales enablement, and I'm going to provide a summary and review of that report. It was published in 2019 and it was titled The Who, What, and How and Why of Sales Enablement. I really love this report for its simplicity. It doesn't have too much of data, but at the same time, it brings us back to the fundamentals and reminds us, what really sales enablement stands for and how does it work. A huge shout out to Scott Elbro, who is the author of this particular article that I am referring to and reviewing. And the report link is also here, and we will also post this link as we post on YouTube. Okay, so let's get started. So, sales enablement, as we all know, is the process of providing the sales organization the right amount of information, content, and tool such that your sales reps are able to sell more effectively, isn't it? I mean, that's what we all are working for. Now, in this article, it delves deeper into what is sales enablement. And if you were to imagine in this visualization, on the left, your sales rep and your seller is there. On the right hand side, you have this buyer. And if you see the sales enablement by its very definition, is about engaging the target buyer. So engagement is one of the very important things, and engagement happens at a behavioral level. And then once your engagement is set, next thing you require is that you need to provide the right kind of resources to your salespeople. And what kind of resources? As per this report, they have to be content which you need to provide to your sales team. The direct content related to your product or services. And at the same time, you also need to supplement some of the best practices, research, and other tools that these salespeople will consume internally and frequently. As we move on with the report, there's a section on training and development. And it talks about effective training program. What is the training and development program which may be thought to be effective? But before we get to that, an interesting point that this article talks about is that the resources that we talked about in our previous section are to be consumed by the salesperson, right? So for that reason, you have to use a traditional training program. You have to really make them sit in a classroom or whatever are your traditional ways of imparting that knowledge and transferring their knowledge to their mind. That's one important part of the program. But the program also needs to have one very key thing. There has to be some involvement of technologies through which the collaboration, role plays, or whatever it may be, so that the sales training becomes a continuous sales training. So really, I like this word continuous sales training because that's very key. Otherwise, these one-shot programs don't give you much benefit because brain is very leaky when it comes to learning over time. People forget, and even if your brain is not leaky, new information come in. So a good training program has to really strive for continuous aspect of it. And when we review our sales training program, we should look at, do we have that amount of continuity? Then the article moves on and talks about usability. And what Scott is saying is that whether your sales team is of 1% or of 1,000 people, or a big team that you may have, you need to provide them effective ways to find the resources and use the resources. So there's a findability problem and there is a usability problem of it. Now, when it comes to finding, is your resources, are your material in a way which is centralized? Is it easy to find for people? Now, easy to find could mean two things. Firstly, are they centralized? And even if it is centralized, if let's say the sales rep is looking for a specific information, how easy is it for you to search it? Is an important aspect that you have to keep in mind. And then you have this concept of ease of use. So suppose I, as a sales rep, land on an article. Is it helping me with the original intent that I had? The problem that I wanted to solve, and hence I was searching. So we also have to have material in the right design. It has to be designed for easy consumption. And then Scott talks about that best sales enabled program. Also look back. So whatever content you have put in your repository and the various forms you have put, really look at it either through user feedback, the sales rep feedbacks, or through analytics, whether they are being used or not used. So you may find out if things are not being used, more likely either they are not being transmitted, they're not easy to find, or if they're in a format where they're not being consumed. So these two yardsticks on the right hand side can be used to finally optimize your sales enablement program. Then this Gartner report talks about measurement, because without measuring, how would you know all the things that you're doing? Finally, it has to hit at some of the parameters. And this article talks about, after your sales enablement engagements, do you have data to prove that your sales cycle length is reducing? The average sales cycle, is it really increasing, remaining same, or reducing? We have to keep that an eye. And then you have to look at how are your winners? Are the sales people winners? Like, are they able to achieve the quotas? How many of them are able to achieve the quota? Is it the company of overachievers? Few people achieve it, and rest of them, just fill in. And the third point we have to measure is, it's all about money finally. So what's your average deal size? Do you see a change in that? And finally, in this part, I'm going to take the last part, and probably the most important, the customer focus. Pretty cliche, but pretty important that your effective sales enablement has to be customer centric. You have to put the customer in center, and then you have to surround them in a way of visualization with sales reps, in a way that sales rep have resources around with them so that they're able to provide the information that the buyer wants. So with those things in mind, I think this report defines very effectively, that what are the aspects of training and development, usability, and measurement, and customer focus. Guys, with this, we'll end the part 1 of it, but soon I'll be back to you, and we will go through this paper ahead, where we'll talk about how is sales enablement practiced. Thanks a lot.
That is all for today. We'll see you next week for part 2. Don't forget to share and subscribe.